All right, Week 16, Yahoo Sportsbook Live. How's everybody doing out there? It's a weird week. It's a weird time of the NFL season, but at least it's the holidays. We got those good vibes. I am happy. I'm excited to be joined by Ariel Epstein. Ariel, how's it going? I know you've got some unfortunate fantasy situations going on with a couple injuries here.
Yeah, asking me how it's going, probably not the best. You're not going to get a very happy Ariel right now. I had Adam Thielen and James Robinson in my starting lineup for for season-long fantasy, and that's just not going so well right now, Matt.
Yes, unfortunately, God, James Robinson, awful break, tears an Achilles. That's a long rehab. Not a great history of running backs coming back from that injury. And I mean, for a guy, just finally gets rid of the Urban Meyer stench, and then this to happen, it's terrible. But let's talk about something else here. Let's maybe mildly more pleasant. You mentioned Adam Thielen. That's not a pleasant thing going on there in that Rams-Vikings game. But we will move to that game. Obviously. Look, this one has not turned into the back and forth, the high-scoring affair that at least I was hoping it could have been. The pregame line was Rams -3. The current line is Rams -10.5 in Minnesota. I would say neither offense looks like it's functioning at its highest ability, Ariel, but, the Rams did get an early touchdown from Sony Michel. Thank God. He's the best running back on one of my potential championship teams, so I'm happy to see that. But overall, not a huge scoring affair so far.
No, and if you really looked at the lines and monitored how the total moved in addition to the tickets, you'd realize there was reverse line movement. This total dropped by a point. It went from 49.5 to 48.5, with about 70% of the action actually backing the over. When I looked at the stats this year, Minnesota's 2-4 to the under when they're at home. The Vikings are averaging 4 less points per game when they're at home as opposed to when they're on the road. Minnesota's an under team when they're playing in their home stadium, and that's why I bet the under, I also ended up teasing the under, betting this game up to 55.5 and betting it down.
Very nice. Yeah, this Minnesota offense so far something's not clicking here. Something's not clicking. Justin Jefferson has been locked down, 2 catches for 14 yards. I expected him to really get rolling here with Adam Thielen back. Of course, now that's a different situation there. Alexander Mattison has 18 carries, 33 yards in relief of Dalvin Cook. And like I mentioned, Sony Michel is the Rams RB1 for sure. I got a lot of start-sit questions about Sony Michel. I kept saying, I think Michel has established himself as the 1A at the very least in this backfield. So far, 11 carries, 1 catch for Sony Michel on 3 targets. Darrell Henderson has not been heard from. Obviously, they activated Cam Akers from IR. I think that was they were doing him a solid to make sure he gets a season accrued towards his pension, something like that. But yeah, Ariel, I think Sony Michel, if you're playing in any sort of playoff fantasy contest, I think he needs to be going a lot higher than he is right now.
Yeah, and that's the problem, though, because the Rams have been going back and forth between Sony Michel, Darrell Henderson. Is Henderson healthy? Is he going to start? Oh, no, he's a game-time decision. That's what makes Sony Michel on your lineup so difficult, because you really have to have both of them and make that last-minute switch. Reminds me a lot of the Denver Broncos situation. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams. Yeah. Both of them could switch off having really good games. One could be healthier than the other. It's just a question of who's actually going to be RB1, and are the coaches going to actually tell us?
Yeah, probably not. The answer is almost always never will they actually just come out and tell us. Hopefully it looks like with their actions the Rams are telling us something here. But we'll see. Maybe that will take a flip as soon as next week, maybe even in the second half. Although, like I said, personally, I'm crossing my fingers that it doesn't. Let's move to another game here. Let's talk Bucs at Panthers. We've got Panthers. Look, this obviously the Panthers are dead in the water. I actually don't want to spend much time talking about this game, so we're going to hit it real quick. Ariel, let me ask you this question. Does anybody in the world, anybody in the universe, think that this whole QB by committee thing that the Panthers are doing, does anybody besides Matt Rule think this is a good idea? One human being on the earth, anyone?
I guess I can only speak for myself. I would say no. You have to look at this offense and say, if you're going to continue to go back and forth between quarterbacks, especially 2 quarterbacks that are not alike at all, this isn't Tyler Huntley and Lamar Jackson. This is Sam Darnold and Cam Newton. You have a mobile quarterback and a pocket passer. You can't let your offense and your receivers and your running backs have to change their mindset based on which quarterback's under center. it just doesn't work. The only way I could ever see it working is if you have two quarterbacks that are exactly the same. That is not the case. It is the complete opposite situation in Carolina.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think the only other time I've seen a team actually do this in the NFL was the Cardinals with Kurt Warner and Matt Leinart. For a while, that one season when they went to the Super Bowl against the Steelers, and like eventually they're just like, enough already with Matt Leinart. We're just gonna ride with Kurt Warner, and they went to the Super Bowl. I mean, obviously that ain't gonna happen in Carolina. We know that, but I mean, even these guys here, like it was Cam Newton and PJ Walker said a couple weeks ago, like we don't want to do this, right? Like we don't like alternating, but Matt Rule decides, you know what? I like it, so we're gonna keep doing it, I guess.
Okay, you'll keep losing. And here's the thing though with the Bucs, it always scares me to lay double digits with them on the road. However, at home against bad teams, the Bucs have been beating bad teams at home by double digits, just not as much on the road. There's backdoor covers. This game, what it really means to Tampa Bay is they need to continue winning to try to beat out the Green Bay Packers for home field in that number 1 seed. Otherwise, on the road, minus 10.5. And you're going up against Carolina, there's a good shot that the Bucs could let the Carolina Panthers backdoor cover in the fourth quarter. I hate laying double digits with road teams.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Like you said, this matters for Tampa Bay's future. Their present, though, they're going to win this game. They're going to win this game, we know that, but by how much, that it remains to be seen. Let's move to Bills at Patriots. Patriots -1 was the opening line. The current line is actually Buffalo -7.5. The Bills have moved the offense on New England so far here. It helps, by the way, breaking news. It helps when you don't play in like a windstorm to move the ball, especially when you are a quarterback passing game driven offense. Stephon Diggs got the touchdown before halftime, and he let the Patriots fans have it afterwards. That was pretty fun. You can go look it up on Twitter if you need to see that. But anyways, yeah, I think that Buffalo, they need this game, Ariel. Like if they lose this game, if they let this slip, they're going to be in trouble in terms of their playoff positioning. Meanwhile, the Patriots lose this game, then it kind of gets interesting in terms of the AFC East. Like there's a discussion there to be had about who will win this division. So this game matters an awful lot. What do you see coming into this game? What have you seen with it so far?
I bet this game early in the week, around Monday, Tuesday. Saw the Bills at +2.5. I snatched it. I actually teased it too. Bills +2.5 got them to 8.5. Unfortunately, I also bet it with the Ravens in a 2-team teaser. Got them both at +8.5 because they were both in the same situation this week. Clearly, that was before Tyler Huntley was announced out with COVID. However, both those teams, like the Bills, they need to win this game against New England because it's the head-to-head matchup that matters for winning the division. If they go 0-2 to the Patriots, the Bills aren't winning the division. However, if you tie it up, there's a lot more that they could play for. Also, like you mentioned about the bad weather, the Buffalo Bills are not meant to run the football. When they had to play in a windy game, Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots are likely going to beat you in a windy game with 30-mile-an-hour winds. The Bills now, in Gillette, I don't care where they are, as long as there's not 30-mile-an-hour winds and Josh Allen can throw the ball to his favorite receiver, Stephon Diggs. Yeah, this is a better setup for Buffalo. The only thing I'm mad about that I didn't take, I'm mad I didn't take the receiving yards prop for the running back on the Bills, Devin Singletary. He just really isn't much of a pass-catching running back. He's not even a good running back, yet the Patriots allowed the 4th most receiving yards to backs this year. I just was too nervous to bet it this week with Singletary.
Yeah, these last couple weeks, it kind of looks like they've narrowed their focus in the backfield a little bit, although Zach Moss was active for this game. 3 carries for 12 yards for him, 4 carries for 13 yards for Devin Singletary. But like you mentioned, 5 catches on 5 targets for Singletary, 39 yards there. They're going to need him to step up as a pass catcher because obviously Cole Beasley not playing in this game. He's on the COVID list. Gabe Davis also on the COVID list, not going to play in this game, not going to play probably in their next game as well. So the Bills are going to be undermanned on offense, but it's a good thing to still have Stephon Diggs, who obviously leads the team with 49 yards and a touchdown. Josh Allen, the leading rusher for this team. My one note on the Patriots, I know that Nelson Agholor is out for this game. Still might want to probably not throw too many passes at N'Keal Harry. I think we're done with that portion of the playbook. Well, let's move on from there. Let's also move on to the Chargers Texans game. This one actually just entered into the 3rd quarter, but we can touch on it here. I know you also have a prop that we'll discuss. This was the Chargers were heavy favorites in this one, -12.5. This game is close. This game actually has the Texans with a little bit of a lead here, Ariel. Your prop for this one, you had the Justin Jackson over on rushing yards, 55.5. He's at 32 after kind of ceding some early work to Josh Kelly in this game. I'm feeling pretty good that you're going to get this one. The Texans still stink. I mean, I'm not worried about that from a defensive perspective.
These are two of the worst run defenses in football. Houston has the edge, though, as the worst run defense in football. I loved Justin Jackson, especially because hearing Austin Eckler come on Yahoo Fantasy this week, the running back for the Chargers on the COVID list, he just said, make sure you go grab Justin Jackson wherever you can if you're in fantasy season long. If you want DFS, he is your go-to guy. He's the backup. He's at 32. I kind of wish now that I took his over rushing and receiving, considering he has 2 receptions for 34 yards. And also going over to the Texans side, Rex Burkhead, 77 rushing yards. There should have just been, Matt, this total on rushing yards in the game between the two worst run defenses in football,
Unreal, yeah.
and we should have just slammed it over. The total rushing yards on both teams combined.
Seriously, right? Like, that probably would have been the way to go. Royce Freeman actually had a long run that was called back in this game too. Yep. So Royce Freeman in the year 2021, unbelievable. Yeah, you mentioned with Justin Jackson, like he was $12 in Yahoo Daily Fantasy. He's already at 13.6 points, mostly because of his touchdown and obviously 2 catches for 34 yards. I think Jackson is still the guy that you want here in this backfield for sure. I mean, Josh Kelly, enough already, 4 carries for 8 yards. Let's just see more of Justin Jackson. I think he's the more explosive talent. Justin Herbert also threw a long interception there, targeting Josh Palmer. They've got COVID issues in their wide receiver room as well. No Jalen Guyton. Mike Williams also going to miss this game and next game, I believe, too, being on the COVID list. So that is going to be
I saw somebody write on Twitter. Someone wrote on Twitter, when you start to believe in the Chargers, they let you down. And that's exactly what happened with this. This spread went from -10.5 to -8, then back up to -12.5. Everyone started believing in LA again, and here we are with the Texans in the lead.
Here we are. All right, yeah, the Texans, and they're driving right now, too, at the start of the third quarter. So we don't like to see that. Let's move on to something, Ariel, I know, unfortunately, you don't like to see. It's the Bengals up 31-14 on your Baltimore Ravens. The Bengals were 7.5-point favorites coming into this game. The current line is Cincinnati -16.5. You also had, and I know this is, I don't mean to just keep driving in the nail here, but you had the longest catch total for Jamar Chase, 24.5. You had the over on that. It's been he's got a long catch of 20, but Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins have been the one bringing in the big plays here. So how do we feel? How do we feel about this?
Terrible.
I don't know.
Defeated. Here's the worst part, honestly, as a Ravens fan, okay? The worst part about this is I come into the game, don't even wear a jersey, a sweatshirt, nothing. I know the season's over. However, the Ravens score a touchdown and go up 7-3. They gave me hope, and they stopped the Bengals in the red zone. I'm thinking, wow, they're actually going to play their heart out, and I'm going to love this team even more. Then here we are. It took just after that touchdown, the defense was giving up the long ball, and the Ravens lost their cornerback in Everett. It's just a hot mess. I'm just annoyed at this point that Jamar Chase hasn't gone over his longest reception prop, and now that the Bengals are up by 2 possessions, how much more are we really going to see the Bengals throw the football? That's where my concern lies, and that's why I didn't even bet the Chase over receiving yards prop. It was too high. I didn't want to have to believe in him to go for 90 receiving yards in case it was a blowout and they started running the football. I figured Chase, who's the deep threat on the team with the most plays for over 20 yards, that he was going to be the one at least to have over 25 yards for a catch. Not the case so far, but there's still time.
There is still time, absolutely still time. I sort of went a weird strategy in daily fantasy where I did not stack Joe Burrow. I played a ton of Joe Burrow, but just couldn't really pick between these receivers because, like Jamar Chase's outlook against that secondary. By the way, they lost another corner in this game as well. I mean, it's just been a nightmare in that secondary all year for Baltimore.
It's true. It's very difficult to decide between Higgins and Boyd. Not even Chase. Forget Chase. Yeah. Higgins and Boyd, I can never choose between.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, from a salary perspective in Yahoo Daily Fantasy, Jamar Chase was still $28, the 4th highest among the main slate receivers. I'm not paying September salary for December Jamar Chase. I'm not going to do that. So just go ahead and play Joe Burrow. But T. Higgins has been the guy so far. 8 targets, 7 catches, 129 yards and a touchdown. Long catch of 52. Huge one there to end the half. So let's let's move on though. We've talked enough about this. Obviously there's some stuff in Baltimore. They're playing Josh Johnson. What the hell is going on? Let's talk Lions at Falcons here because we have another prop to discuss for you there. Lions at Falcons. Falcons -7. They were 7-point favorites coming into this game. 3.5 points right now are the Atlanta Falcons. I will say this. We'll talk about your prop in a second, Ariel, but I'm on Ross St. Brown. I want to give credit to the Detroit Lions rookie. It was obviously going to be pretty nerve-wracking to play him in fantasy with Tim Boyle starting. The guy comes down with another touchdown. I think he's legit. I think he's very good. The Lions have been much better in the passing game since they kind of made him their #1 target. But the main attraction here that we want to talk about, Kyle Pitts, as we're talking, goes over the 47.5 total that you had for him here. He's at 83 yards so far, 5 for 5. I also had this prop on Fantasy Football Live this morning, and it's just because, like 47.5, way too low for Kyle Pitts. Like we talk about him as if he's having this like disappointing season because he hasn't been scoring a ton of touchdowns. We'll see. Maybe he can have that positive touchdown regression in this game. Just 1.1% of his targets have gone for touchdowns. That's absurdly low. But he's 4th among all tight ends in yards, in targets. Yards per target is very high as well for him too. He's right up there with George Kittle. Like he's having a good season. I thought this line was way too low.
Way too low. He's gone over this number in 3 straight weeks, and nonetheless, I've seen a bunch of different tight ends. It's been, I was looking for the number, 10 out of 14 games where a tight end's gone over this number against the Lions. They ranked 9th in receiving yards allowed to tight ends this year. Nonetheless, it's the Detroit Lions. Even though Matt Ryan and Kyle Pitts have not had a successful season based on their record, this is still a successful season for Pitts. The biggest downfall for Pitts this year has been that Calvin Ridley never played. And if Calvin Ridley played and he's the deep threat, then I could see this being one of those Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen type receivers, where even though Pitts is a tight end, he can play that role as receiver. And unfortunately, there's just not enough weapons on this Falcons team to distract many opponents from Pitts. However, he's still played very well this year when it comes to yardage. The only advantage of betting props as opposed to playing fantasy is you don't have to rely on him to score touchdowns as long as he goes over the prop.
Exactly. There we go. And that has been the case, at least here today. All right, executive decision. I don't care about Giants and Eagles. I don't care about Jaguars and Jets.
Terrible.
Yeah, let's just move on. Although the Jaguars should think about moving on from their entire existence after giving up that 50-plus yard touchdown to run to Zach Wilson of all people early in that game. But we will move on as I'm watching Cam Newton get sacked.
I couldn't believe, by the way, I just couldn't believe how many people were backing the Jets today. I saw over 75% of action backing the Jets on multiple books, especially on BetMGM. What are people doing? I mean, unless that's a result of 5 people betting and 4 out of the 5 bet the Jets, then maybe. If you're betting on this game, you're crazy. And if you're laying points with the Jets, you're even more crazy. That's my rant.
Yeah, you're absolutely nuts if that's the case. All right, let's move on to the later games here. Let's talk Steelers at Chiefs. The Chiefs are 10-point favorites over the Steelers, who won last week in an ugly, sloppy game. I guess not sloppy is not the right word, but, well, the Steelers kind of always play in these slop-fest games, just ugly overall against Tennessee Titans. But the Chiefs have issues. Travis Kelce did not make it off the COVID list in time. Tyreek Hill did, though. Do you think that is enough? With Chris Jones back, I think that's crucial for their defense. They're 4th in terms of EPA per play allowed since Week 10, the Chiefs defense. They've really come on here. How do we see this game playing out with these two teams?
I like that you're talking about the defense because the way I see this game going is towards the under. This total has dropped from 46.5 to 44.5, and I'm seeing about 75% of the action on the over in this game. Not one place when I look at ticket counts did I see tickets or money backing an under in the majority. It's all been to the over. Wow. Yet the Chiefs are 3-5 to the under this year when playing at home. Kansas City is averaging 6 less points per game this year when playing at home. The Chiefs are a more under team when they're at home in Arrowhead. I'm betting the under, and this was that game where I told you before, where I did a 2-team teaser or 2-game teaser, and I teased 2 totals and bet the unders. So I teased this one up to 50.5, and I bet the under, along with that Vikings and Rams game where I teased it up to 55.5 and bet the under also. 2 fishy lines.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I love the way you're thinking about this game because I kind of feel like that's how this is going to play out. I got a couple props from this game here. Just right before we started, I switched because we couldn't, normally we do the primetime game props, but we've had to pivot here because they're not putting up the Monday night ones, which I understand. Everything is like in a total mess at this point. Yeah, it's a mess. So skipping Monday Night Football, we'll do Sunday night though. So I picked 3 from these afternoon games. 2 actually from this contest. 1, I like the over on Clyde Edwards-Helaire rushing yards 59.5. Little tough because he splits the backfield obviously a little bit with Darrell Williams, but Williams is mostly a factor on passing downs, and the Steelers have just been run all over recently, including last week. I mentioned like basically nobody hit their ceiling in terms of fantasy last week in that Titans Steelers game, but the one guy who did, Donta Foreman, ran for over 100 yards, 135 total yards for Donta Foreman against the Steelers last week. I really like Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get over this number, especially if there's no Travis Kelce. Maybe they just try to run the ball a little bit more if it's a lower scoring close game. The Steelers right now 32nd in terms of EPA per rush attempt allowed since week 10. So I like the over on CEH's rushing yards here. And also, Ariel, I like the under on Chase Claypool's 44.5 receiving yards. I mean, this guy, he's not even the second receiver anymore. He's third in terms of routes run over the last 2 weeks because like they keep benching him because, he's just, there's some stuff going on. They're not real happy with him right now. I'm not jazzed about Chase Claypool in a matchup against the Chiefs secondary defense overall that's playing much better here down the stretch.
I'm so over Chase Claypool. I have bet these receivers on the Steelers a few different times, whether it's Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool. I'm done. The only one I'll ever bet on is probably receptions for their tight end, Pat Freiermuth. Otherwise, I'm staying away. I was doing it was the Steelers game, and they were up against one of the worst defenses against receivers this year. I forget which one, but it's pretty recent. I bet the over on Claypool and Johnson, longest reception, a number that at least one player's gone over of 20-plus yards in every game against that team. And the Steelers had 19 yards or shorter for their longest reception. I'm done with this offense. No more pits.
Sounds like a Ben Roethlisberger-led offense here in 2021. That's exactly what you got on that one. This should be an interesting game, though. We're definitely going to be, that'll be enough of Big Ben already. Let's talk. You got anything on Bears at Seahawks? Seahawks minus 6.5. I don't know that there's too much. I mean, Nick Foles is starting this game, for God's sakes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's a tough one with the quarterback situation. How much do the Seahawks really care? The one thing that the Seahawks have been pretty bad at defensively is defending against the run. Maybe go for some David Montgomery props. I've also seen the number go against Seattle, -7 to -6.5. Be careful how that line may move in the 3 p.m. Eastern time hour, about an hour before kick. See if it moves any further in the direction of Chicago or if it bounces back in favor of Seattle. The reason I say that is because the movement against Seattle is telling. This line, it's about 65% of action backing the Seahawks here. And if you're going to get that line continually moving in the Chicago Bears' favor, that's telling me that the books are readjusting and thinking that the Seahawks, especially with all that snow on the ground, maybe they won't be able to contain what the Chicago Bears have done well this year, which is run the football. And Jimmy Graham, anytime touchdown from my Bears fans. They tell me to bet that.
God, Jimmy Graham, unbelievable. All right, let's move on to Broncos at Raiders. Raiders are 1.5-point favorites here. I mean, the only thing I got on this game, I'm taking for my third prop in the afternoon game, I'm taking the over on Drew Lock 0.5 interception. I'm taking. I think he throws
I love
one.
it. I love that.
I mean, it's minus 200, but yeah, I mean, give me a break. Drew Lock, yeah, we'll get a turnover off of Drew Lock in this game. The Raiders do have a pretty good pass rush too. Yannick Ngakoue, Max Crosby, those guys can get after the quarterback. I think they forced Drew Lock into an interception here. I gotta see it.
Yeah, and the other thing I liked in this game is both running backs and their receiving yards. Whether it's Vegas Raiders running back Josh Jacobs, who's gone over his receiving yards prop in 3 or 4 straight weeks, in addition to Denver Broncos running back Javonte Williams to go over 17.5 receiving yards. Both of these backs are good at catching balls out of the backfield. Both of these defenses are bad against running backs that catch balls out of the backfield. They're both bottom 15 and allowing the most yards to receiving yards in running backs. So I'm going to take the over on both those receiving yards.
I like that call. All right, let's move on to Sunday Night Football. We got Washington at the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys are 9.5-point favorites. This Cowboys offense, Ariel, is not firing on all cylinders at this point, but I think they could get rolling at any moment. Could perhaps be this game. But one thing that is working for Dallas is their defense is number one in terms of EPA per play on the season right now. I mean, they have been getting takeaways left and right. How do we feel about this game overall?
It's tough because the line's moving against Dallas, yet how much faith do I have in Washington? Not much. One thing Washington's done consistently, though, is they have not been good in the red zone. They've allowed for the most passing touchdowns by quarterbacks. I'm going for Dak Prescott to have 2 or 3 passing touchdowns in this game.
I like that call a lot. That's a good one. I will give you my props for this one. This was a tough game to pick because I get to see it going so many different ways for Dallas. I will take the over on Zeke carries at 13.5 here. He's been pretty steady in terms of getting the ball, like even if he's not been as effective. Now, Zeke did say coming off the last game that he felt better. He felt a little healthier, felt a little more fresh. I think he can, even if he's not going to get, the 20s that we've seen previously or something like that, I think we can maybe see him in the 14, 15, 16 range and safely get over 13.5 in a game we do expect the Cowboys to control.
Yeah, in divisional matchup, it's going to be important for them to keep building on that divisional record, even though the rest of their division is pretty terrible. This line did move against Dallas, though, so it does make me a little nervous to go back any side. I've seen this total drop, too, from 47.5 to 46.5. I like to wait on the splits because a lot of people, the public, they like to bet these early games first, and then they'll go take their winnings or maybe chase their losing, and they will go bet the Sunday Night Football game. Let's see where the ticket splits are as we get closer to kickoff. I'm interested to see how this line moves within the hour before the game.
I definitely like that. That makes a lot of sense there. A couple other props I like here, one for Dallas, one for Washington. It's tough to pick between these Cowboys receivers, so I just decided not to pick between these Cowboys receivers. I was
going to ask you. I was waiting for you to do it. I was waiting for you to pick because I would have tailed you.
I like Dalton Schultz. I like the Dalton Schultz over 40.5. I know he had I think he only had 1 catch for 4 yards the last time these two teams faced each other. I kind of like him to get going here. Last week had a huge game against the Giants, and I think he's been pretty good for Dak all year. I think he can make some plays down the middle of the field. I take the over on his receiving yardage here. And then my last one, I normally never like these interception props, but for some reason I'm doing another one. Taylor Heineke, give me the over on 0.5 interceptions for Taylor Heineke at -200 against Dallas. They've been getting after the quarterback. They've got some.
You probably can't, but it would be funny. You probably can't do it, but it'd be hilarious.
I mean, yeah, I got no faith in Taylor Heineke, apparently. I love Taylor Heineke, but at the same time, going against the Cowboys, so many interceptions for Trayvon Diggs on that side of the ball. Their whole team is just hunting right now, especially up front. I mean, when they have DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, and Randy Gregory going, that is just a lot of pass rush. Taylor Heineke can definitely try to write some checks that his arm cannot cash. 12 interceptions on the season. I think he throws another one on Sunday Night Football.
I like it. There's got to be a longest reception prop somewhere, though. I do like your Dalton Schultz prop because the Washington football team's been bad against the passing game all year. They've been bad against receivers, bad against tight ends. So I do like that play on Dalton Schultz, making you not have to choose between the wide receivers. There's going to be a deep ball thrown. Maybe it's a Dak Prescott longest completion prop that you have to rely on. I'd rather just probably wait on those touchdowns, though.
Yeah, you've got 21.5 for Amari Cooper in terms of longest reception. You've got 19.5 for Michael Gallup. That's interesting because he's actually typically the vertical guy here. 22.5 for CeeDee Lamb. I don't know. Yeah, you might be right with Michael Gallup, 19.5 longest catch. That could be an interesting one as well. All right, last one we'll talk about here. We will talk the Monday Night Football game. We got Dolphins at Saints. Dolphins are 2.5-point road favorites because the Saints are starting Ian Book. Ariel, what are we doing here with Taysom Hill on the COVID list, with Trevor Siemian on the COVID list? We got to watch Ian Book on Monday Night Football. What are we doing here?
This is absolutely nuts. I'm waiting to place anything just because of any kind of COVID outbreak that could happen. Sure. This line flipped from -3 to +3. I do like Miami in the spot. I also have Tua Tagovailoa as my starting quarterback now in the semifinals for season-long fantasy because Lamar Jackson's out this week. Let's just hope Tua has a really good game. And sometimes you could get some decently low numbers in games against New Orleans. So if you can find a good way to attack the passing game, the Saints have a really good defense. It's just how much are they going to be on the field with Ian Book as their quarterback? Can they get tired down the stretch? I'm going to start to look for some of those props, but I didn't see too many out yet, so I don't have a play. What about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, the only thing that's up right now, I just pulled it up as we were talking. It wasn't up this morning. We've got receiving yards on Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram. That's it. And then rushing yards on Alvin Kamara, and that's it. It's 61.5. I don't know about all that. Yeah, I'd wait to see on some of these receivers, like maybe Jalen Waddle, to see what they set it at, just because they've typically given up production to interior receivers, have the New Orleans Saints. But, man, their defense has been playing extremely well lately, getting after the quarterback. The secondary is healthy and looking pretty good there as well. So the total in this game is 37. So if you're waiting on, like, a fantasy hero in this game later on, you might be waiting a long time to get that.
Yeah, maybe some kind of team total, if I could. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but maybe a team total under on Miami. I know New Orleans will be intriguing. However, that number is probably going to be extremely low. A Miami team total under could be interesting, though, especially with that really good Saints defense. Not to say that Miami may not win the game. They just may be a little too pricey.
Yes, I totally understand that. Team total for the Saints, 17.3. Something like 19 for Miami. I don't know. That'll be an interesting one. That will definitely be an interesting game to watch overall. Yeah, no, it's. I mean, we'll see. The Saints have played through a lot of weird stuff all season long. Played pretty well. Sean Payton coaching them up, but man, I don't know if they can survive this one. But we shall see what happens.
Sean Payton, John Harbaugh, they're doing such a great job with what they have. It's just never going to be enough. You might as well just end the season, focus on next year.
Yeah, go ahead, sim to end for those guys there. Yeah, we shall see. All right, that's going to do it for us here, Week 16 Yahoo Sportsbook Live. Good luck to all of you out there this holiday season. Hope you enjoy it, and maybe you win something along the way, whether it's your daily fantasy lineups, your bets. We wish you luck, and go crush it out there.